I would encourage you to take a walk with me down prayerlive.com and 9/11 Christian Center if you want to see the effects of a mosque. I would take you back to 9/11 for the effects of a mosque. And I would ask you to consider not only the land use, but I would ask you to consider the use and what this mosque will cause, as other mosques have caused all across this country, as well as what the mosque have caused for the Muslim that's in the White House today.
Prizes.
Hello, my name is Barbara Breyer, and I'm speaking basically on public safety and security of our people. The safety and security from the Temecula General Plan and Development Code, the perception of personal safety and the security of property are central to the quality of life in a community. Exposure to criminal activity can be reduced through regulation of human activity. I believe regulation of human activity starts with this community standing up to say we do not want any mosques governed by Sharia law in our town, county, state, or country. Public safety plan from the Temecula General Plan and Development Code, providing an environment where businesses and residents can prosper and feel safe. I believe Americans will never be safe wherever Sharia law is practiced. Remember, it is Sharia law that governs all mosques.
That's correct.
Terrorism, readiness, and response from the Temecula General Plan Development Code. In the aftermath of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, the City of Temecula's emergency preparedness and response service has become an even more critical function to address terrorism issues that confront the nation and local communities. I believe the Sharia law is terrorism at its finest and is implemented to deteriorate our American way of life. We have only to see other countries who have allowed mosques in and how their way of life has not just been changed, but is gone forever, and now they are submissive to the Sharia law. The Center for Security Policy states the terrorist threat is Sharia. It obliges them to engage in jihad to achieve the triumph of Islam worldwide through establishment of a global Islamic state governed exclusively by Sharia under a restored Khalifa. Thank you. Again, remember, it is Sharia law that governs all mosques, not the other way around.
That's right.
Minimize criminal activity from the Temecula General Plan and Development Code. Protect residents and businesses from criminal activity. Criminal activity starts with the Sharia law and ends with our American way of life being taken away and turned into a barbaric, inhumane way of life, for our women being beaten and our children being sexually molested, just for a starter. In closing, please remember that Sharia law is governs all mosques, not the other way around.
Ma'am, time's up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Aaron Lugo, followed by Amin Morshed, followed by Arafina Akbar.
I'm with the Libertas West Project. I'm an attorney. I have litigated several RLUIPA cases, significant ones. I've also written several amicus briefs to the United States Supreme Court on religious liberty issues. I know the substantial burden prong of RLUIPA. I understand the disparate impact part of it, and also understand the compelling interest governmental standard. That said, I work across many various groups to welcome moderate Muslims who come to be a part of our constitutional experience in the United States of America, who come to consent to be governed by our rule of law. That said, I also work with those same groups to be very, very careful about monitoring the line between religious Muslim worship and the implementation of Sharia or a socio-political regime. All we have to do is look at what has happened in Europe to know what we do not want to have happen here. In the case of Europe, now in France, with a 10% Muslim population, there are 750 no-go zones. Yet America, and I feel that it's important to say that to have a reasonable concern about this is not to be bigoted and not to be fearful, but just to be aware that this is something we do not want to see in our country. So we invite Muslims who come to participate and recognize that our unalienable rights and our individual liberties are sacrosanct and something that we will never forsake. So this evening, what I would like to propose is the idea that possibly the CUP be implemented in 2 phases. Oftentimes, conditional use permits, because they are conditional, are provided with the set of conditions, and those are monitored. Many times those are done for a periodic time element, a 5-year, a 10-year, whatever it is. So to be able to assess the impact on traffic and on parking, to be able to evaluate what this original building phase means to the neighborhood, the impact, the health and safety concerns that you have as government officials would be something to consider, and then to allow a possible second phase of the building. So that is just the idea that I submit this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
The department has shown great preferential treatment to this proposed project from the very start. There was an attempt to push this through without notifying the public properly. There was a rush traffic study, which is still obviously improperly done. There was a waiving of the environmental impact report, even though this property is located in a floodplain and it was required of the church located next door. There has also been refusal to see that the formula being used for the number of parking spaces required is in fact wrong. As for your flawed formula for the parking spaces, that has already been going over several times now, as far as the standing versus sitting and the dimensions that you are required, and the male only being allowed within the worship facility area. I do have one thing that I decided I am going to now add to my speech based on some of the other comments that have been made. First of all, Islam is not a religion. It is a political ideology with a religious component. It is much like communism with a social, political, and judicial system. They both hold a religious component to them. In communism, the forced religious component is atheism. You must be atheist in order to be under the communist regime. In Islam, it is a forced religion of the belief in Muhammad. However, since they both have the overlying aspect is social, political, and judicial system. Just because it holds a religious aspect to it does not qualify it as a religion. Therefore, it does not fall under RILUPA. It does not apply to ideology. If it did, then we would have to allow buildings to house every ideology, including those that plot against us, such as the communists and the Nazis of the past. You certainly would not see this in World War II during that time era, them being allowed to build these types of places to congregate. Neither should we at this time.
Thank you. If the city has allowed the Muslims to slaughter 100 lambs in the city streets, 10 years ago, land was bought for this purpose. They have an agenda. You will have to give an account to the people of this city, the results of your decision. How many mosques are in this country? If you're concerned about legal matters, let me give you a website, aclj.com. Corona is paying the price. Don't give in to their agenda. The arrogance of it all to build next to other churches that will eventually be taken over by the Muslims. Look up your history. Unthinkable that one would consider building next to Ground Zero. Aren't you aware what's going on in this country? They infiltrate, then overpopulate. We are expected to make concessions for them in the workplace and in the schools, taking our rights away for their causes. Their holy book describes all Americans as infidels and school their children to hate us. I don't understand that the other churches can accept them They are not only our enemy, but pagans. Why would we want them in our own backyard? Thank you.